Hi, family. We right back at it like we never left. Continuing on with this Moynihan Report, we are in part three, the root of the problem. The root of the problem. Um, yeah, let's continue on. We are in the section entitled Reconstruction, I believe. Oh, urbanization. Excuse me. We are in urbanization. We are on page 20 of the report, 19 going into 20. Work is precisely the one thing the Negro family head in such circumstances has not received over the past generation. So, what I'm trying to understand is if this is clearly seen since the 60s that what would fix the situation is jobs. So, and people say it's so silly when the men marched on Washington for jobs. But if you guys personally understand how that would rebalance the structure of the community, of course, that was such an important thing for them to do. And it might not even have been jobs that they really needed to march for, much as the resources to skill the labor in their own community, to make more plumbers, to make more tradesmen, to make more people who could run businesses and fulfill the services of the community so as to not need to be so reliant on outsiders to come in and fulfill those roles. If you have more carpenters, plumbers, roofers, electricians, HVAC people, people who handle steam piping systems, fire guards, fire safety directors, people who handle the tunnels and the irrigation, and people who handle logistics for large sanitation. If they had the knowledge and know how to do those things in the community, and those people could be employed from within the community, that would literally trickle down to more economic growth in the community coming from the community itself, and the community would be able to go up, and the children, I would argue, would far more or better benefit from this than a social worker coming into their house trying to get the mom a job program and babysitting and all these other amenities for the children, when they really just need employment and the skills to pay the bills, as it were. Close the door. Continuing on, gang, the fundamental overwhelming fact is that the Negro unemployment, with the exception of a few years during World War II and the Korean War, has continued at disaster levels for 35 years. Once again, this is particularly the case in the northern urban areas to which the Negro population has been moving. And as it showed in the earlier chart, look how much of them live in these areas. 95.7% live in a urban populated area in the Northeast versus about 79% of their counterpart, right? And the brokenness of the homes in these areas. Look at that. 35% broken homes. Broken homes. The illegitimate children that are being born in Harlem, in the urban Northeast area. It's about 50% of the children. There's no way you can have good families. Like, there's no way you can have a good community if you don't start with good families. Period. And there's no way you can have good families if the head of the family is in financial ruin. It's just reality. The 1930 census, taken in the spring before the Depression was in full swing, showed Negro unemployment at 6.1%, as against 6.6% for whites. But taking out the South reversed the relationship. Whites 7.4%, while non-white 11.5%. By 1940, the 2-to-1 white to Negro unemployment relationship persists to this day, by 1940, the 2-to-1 white to Negro unemployment relationship that persists to this day had clearly emerged. Taking out the South again, whites were 14.8% unemployed, non-whites 29.7%. Jeez. Unemployment among Negroes outside the South has persisted at catastrophic levels since the first statistics were gathered in 1930. This 1930. 1940, 1950, 1960. Since 1929, the Negro worker has been tremendously affected by the movements of the business cycle and of employment. He has been hit worse by declines than whites, and proportionately helped more by recoveries. From 1951 to 1963, the level of the Negro male unemployment was on a long run rising trend, while at the same time following the short run ups and downs of the business cycle. During the same period, the number of broken families in the Negro world was also on a long run rise, with intermediate ups and downs. A glance at the chart on page 22 reveals that the series move in the same directions up and down together with a long run rising trend, but that the peaks and troughs are 1 year out of phase. Thus, unemployment peaks 1 year before broken families and so on. Sheesh. By plotting these series, so what it's saying is they can literally chart that as unemployment goes up, broken families is going to go up. As unemployment goes down, broken families are going to go down. And they can literally chart this. They can literally chart this with the fact that about 1 year out, when unemployment is massively affecting the community, give it about 12 months, and broken families are going to start to affect that community as well. Jeez. That's crazy. So that they can literally plot it like, damn, if we have 12 months to fix this, or this is gonna happen. The effect of recession, unemployment on divorce further illustrates the economic roots of the problem. And I mean, to this day, what is the number one thing they say we get divorced about? Pesos. Every day we on our peso. The effect of recession unemployment on divorce further illustrates the economic roots of the problem. The non-white divorce rate dipped slightly in high unemployment years like 1954 to 1955, 1958, and 1961 to 1962. See table 21. Okay. Divorce is expensive. Those without money resort to separation or desertion. Yucky. While divorce is not a desirable goal for a society, it recognizes the importance of marriage and family, and for children, some family continuity and support is more likely when the institution of family has been so recognized. The conclusion from these and similar data is difficult to avoid. During times when jobs were reasonably plentiful, although at no time during this period, save perhaps for the first 2 years, did the unemployment rate for Negro males drop to anything like a reasonable level, the Negro family became stronger and more stable. So let's read that again. During times when jobs were reasonably plentiful, I'll leave the parentheses out, the Negro family became stronger and more stable. As jobs became more and more difficult to find, the stability of the family became more and more difficult to maintain. Ain't nothing going on but the rent. Got to have a J-O-B if you want to be with me. No romance without finance. No romance without finance. This relation is clearly seen in terms of the illegitimacy rates of census tracts in the District of Columbia compared with male unemployment rates in the same neighborhoods. This relation is clearly seen in terms of the illegitimacy rates of census tracts in the District of Columbia compared with male unemployment in the same neighborhoods. So they can literally track how many kids are going to be born illegitimately in comparison to how many people don't have jobs. Sisters, explain this to me. I mean, I get it. We have bodies and we have, biological impairments, biological needs. We have physical desires. Why you having illegitimate children? So you'll let the man procreate with you, but you won't let him be your husband because of his financial strain. But what that does is then create a child who's in financial strain because the financial strain didn't go away just because you decided to raise the child by yourself because the father doesn't have money. all you doing is creating more financial strain and a child which now needs public subsidy. Make that part make sense for me, sisters. Drop it in the comments, because I can't. Oh, I can't understand this. In 1963, a prosperous year, 29.2% of all Negro men in the labor force were unemployed at some time during the year. Almost half of these men were out of work 15 weeks or more. Damn. The impact of poverty on the Negro family structure is no less obvious, although, again, it may not be widely acknowledged. So it's easy to see it, but we try to act like poverty is not what's messing up the family structure. We try to act like it doesn't have a huge impact on the family structure. Although we get on all these panels and sisters talk about, I can't let no man who ain't got no money rule me, run me, make me submit. I can't pay half and that. But we carry on like it doesn't have since the 60s. I mean, it seems like they already understood this. So I'd argue they've understood this since before the 60s. I mean, you have the 50s here in the report. They have data back to the 30s in the report. So it seems like this was an understood thing. And if I wanted to cripple a community, I could easily cripple it by crippling who's in charge. The impact of poverty on the Negro family structure is no less obvious, meaning it's very, very apparent, very easy to see. Although, again, it may not be widely acknowledged. People try to act like that's not what's going on. There would seem to be an American tradition, agrarian in its origins, but reinforced by attitudes of urban immigrant groups to the effect that family morality and stability decline as income and social position rise. Oh, really? Oh, really? Family morality and stability decline as income and social position rise. Is that really? There would seem to be a tradition agrarian in its origins, but reinforced by attitudes of urban immigrant groups to the effect that, excuse me one. On the contrary, higher family incomes are unmistakably associated with greater family stability. Over the years, this may have provided some consolation to the poor, but there is little evidence that it is true. On the contrary, higher family incomes are unmistakably associated with greater family stability. Higher family incomes are unmistakably associated with greater family stability. But when people like KS, peace to the brother, RIP, say things like, oh, after you make a certain amount of money, divorces go down. No one wants to deal with that. No one wants to deal with the correlation between finance and stability of home. No one wants to deal with that. You want to pretend like money shouldn't matter. This is dumb. These are dumb statements that fix nothing. Money matters, finance matters, skills matter, and they help you have a more balanced life. Period. More stable life, a more sustainable life, long term, where you can build things. But the conjunction of the two characters is unmistakable. Which comes first may be a matter for conjecture, but the conjuncture of the two characteristics is unmistakable. It's like a chicken or the egg conversation. Which comes first, a more stable home or more greater financial stability, or more financial stability and a more stable home? It's like, which comes first, the chicken or the egg? Because you could argue a man and woman coming together allows for more stability, so they can put their resources together, they can put their energies together, and they can build up. Or you could argue a man being already self-sufficient and built up can create a stable home environment. Which comes first, the chicken or the egg? Either or. You can't argue that that is a necessary component. There are multiple ways to skin the cat. There are multiple avenues to get to it, but that component is essential. It is the lifeblood of this thing being able to rock. No family, no Negro family is the exception. Oh, excuse me. The Negro family is no exception. In the District of Columbia or DC, DMV area, whatever you want to call it, Maryland, DC, Columbia area, Maryland, DC, Virginia area, excuse me. For example, a census tracts with the median incomes over $8,000 had an illegitimacy rate of 1/3 that of tracts in the category under $4,000. And that's just a $4,000 difference in finances, gang. But let's see, what is $4,000 back in 1960? Let me see, $4,000, dollar times. Let's go, $4,000, 1960. Oh, $4,000 adjusted for inflation in 1960 equal to $41,734 in 2024. And annual inflation over this period was 3.73%. Damn! You talk about a difference of almost $40,000 in spending power. Oh my God. You're talking about a difference, dollartimes.com's calculator. You're talking about a difference of $40,000 in spending power. Value of a dollar calculates inflation to see what the US dollar was worth in the past and today. View historical and today's current inflation rates using the CPI provided by the United States government. Inflation data is updated regularly, so results may differ from other websites. How much is the cost of living increase? What was the inflation over a specific period? Damn, bro. You're talking about the 1960s, bro. 4,100, 4,000. If you start at $4,000 in 1960, bro, that's $41,734 today. You would need $41,734 today to equate to the spending power that $4,000 gave you in the 1960s. Jesus, inflation is destroying our country. And at the same time, we having this crippling inflation, we're having less and less families to battle against this together, and more illegitimacy, which is putting more and more of a strain on society, man. Dollar times calculator. Let's see what other sites calculated at. $42,456.08. Cumulative price change of 961.4%, an average inflation rate of 3.76%, converted amount 42,456. So yeah, about 40 grand, from 4 grand to 40 grand from the 60s to now. So you talk about from the 60s to, man, you talk about 60 years, man. In about 60 years, because man, it's about 60. This is crazy. 64 years. 64 years. $44,000 in 1960 is equivalent. Excuse me. Let me do this. $4,000, and then again, this is in 2013 dollars.com and their inflation calculator. $4,000 in 1960 is equivalent in purchasing power to about $42,456 today, an increase of $38,456.08 over 64 years. The dollar had an average inflation of 3.76% per year between 1960 and today, producing a cumulative price increase of 961.4%. God damn. Imagine that. If you're a person that was alive in the 60s and you living still now, like you was a kid in the 60s or a teenager, and you saw prices increase by almost 1,000% over your lifetime, man, this means that today's prices are 10.61 times higher at average prices since 1960, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics Consumer Price Index. A dollar today buys only 9.42% of what it would buy back then, bruh. The inflation rate in 1960 was 1.72%. The current inflation rate compared to end of last year is now 2.97%. If the number holds, $4,000 today will have an equivalent buying power to $4,118. So you essentially need to earn $118.86 of interest between this year and next year if you have $4,000 in the bank to continue to have $4,000 in spending power. Jesus, the current inflation rate page. This is crazy, y'all. This is crazy. This is crazy. Inflation going crazy. Inflation going crazy. Look at that. Look at that. $1 in 1960 had the equivalent value of $10.61 today. So what you could buy for $1 in 1960, you have to spend $10.61 to buy today. What you could buy for $1,000 in 1960, you have to spend $10,614.02 to buy today. What you could buy for 100 grand, like if you could get a house for 50 grand back in the day, many people could get a house for between 40, 30, 50 grand back in the day. That house would be about a $530,000 house today. And think about that. Think about how many people were able to increase their family's wealth because of home ownership from the 60s till now. And how many people's families were locked out of building wealth from the 60s to now because of a lack of home ownership. If you had $100,000 house, if you was real fancy, your family was able to get $100,000, you'd have $1 million home today, family. This is crazy. This is crazy. Inflation by city, and it's even more depending on the city you live in. In New York, $4,000 in the 60s, you need $43,000, essentially $44,000 to match that. This is insane, guys. This is insane. Shout to in 2013 dollars for the beautiful breakdown. So you wonder, like, you talk about $40,000 of buying power in today's dollars. No longer, like, that is what it takes, right? $40,000 of additional buying power. Excuse me. Oh man. The wage system. The American wage system is conspicuous in the degree to which it provides high incomes for individuals, but is rarely adjusted to ensure that the family as well as individual needs are met. Almost without exception, the social welfare and social insurance systems of other industrial democracies provide for some adjustment or supplement of workers' incomes to provide for the extra expenses of those with families. American arrangements do not save for income tax deductions. That was interesting. They put all these charts in between that. The American wage system is conspicuous in the degree to which it provides high incomes for individuals, but is rarely adjusted to ensure that family as well as individual needs are met. That's a fact. Almost without exception, the social welfare and social insurance systems of other industrial democracies provide for some adjustment or supplement of a worker's income to provide for extra expense of those with families. Right. So you have food stamps, and you can even still get food stamps even if you have a job, depending on how much your wages are and the size of your family. Medical insurance, same thing. Child care, same thing. You may have co-payments with your health care and child care, but there are federal programs which attempt to subsidize the additional cost that your salary may not fulfill in, with all the inflation and the cost of living and these wages not going up to match. Now, again, I see the issue as skilling the labor force so they can get skilled labor positions, which will more closely in line with the cost of actual living. They will give you a better cost. They will give you a better lifestyle, a better degree of living, more pride in what you do, more likelihood of being able to go out for yourself and start your own company, which will even further increase your ability to take care of yourself and your family and be a earner and a contributor to the taxes of your local community and your country, to the tax base rather. The federal minimum wage of $1.25 per hour provides a basic income for an individual, but an income well below the poverty line for a couple, much less a family with children. $1.25. God damn. So what was $1.25 in 1960? Let's see. A dollar then was $10 now, right? That's what it said about, right? A dollar then is $10 now on the other. I believe that's what it said. A dollar then is about $11 now. Yep. So if you paid $1.25 in wages then, you'd have to pay about $11 and some change in wages now to match it, right? You'd have to pay about $15 wage. Whew. Mm, mm. Okay. That is the conversation, gang. Do we need a $15 federal minimum wage to match the cost of living? The 1965 Economic Report of the President revised the data on the number of persons living in poverty in the United States to take account of the varying needs of families of different sizes, rather than using a flat cutoff at the $3,000 income level. The resulting revision illustrates the significance of family size. Using these criteria, the number of poor families is smaller, but the number of large families who are poor increases, and the number of children in poverty rises by more than 1/3, from 11 million to 15 million. This means that 1/4 of the nation's children live in families that are poor. Man. Percent of non-white illegitimate births in 1963 in DC Census tracts as related to median non-white family income in 1959. In 1959 of census tract. Yeah. Census tracts with median incomes of $8,000 or over. Percent of births illegitimate, much lower. 7,000 to 8,000, much lower. And again, if we talking about $8,000 back then, we talking about what, an $80,000 salary? I'm sorry, $8,000. Talk about an $85,000 salary, roughly, guys. Today, if you made $8,000 back then, right? I don't think people really take this into account. So if you made $7,000 back then, you made about a $70,000 salary now. 6,000 back then is about a $60,000 salary now. 40,000 back then is about 4,000 back then is about a $40,000 salary now, which is what the average of so many homes are. And look at this illegitimate birth rate. And just going into the $60,000 to $70,000 range. Look how it lowers the illegitimate birth rate. 70 to 80,000, even lower, 80,000 and up. And I'm talking in today's numbers, but we see it's about a 10, almost 11%, you know what I mean? 11 times the value of what this money was back then. So 8,000 is 80,000 now. Just making the math easy, right? Really 85,000, but we're just making the math easy. Close. Take care of, to feed and protect something or someone, especially young. Nurture. Stop playing. Men have to nurture families, or families cannot grow. Men have to nurture communities, or communities are weak and targets. What are we talking about, family? What are we talking about? Oh, damn. The resulting the resulting revisions illustrates the significance, family size. Let's keep going. Let's see these other charts. Percent of non-white illegitimate births in 1963 in the District of Columbia census tracts as related to the non-white 1960 unemployment rate. So again, they're looking at the illegitimate rates in the 63 compared to the people who were unemployed in 1960, because they could literally look at, okay, people are unemployed, so now we're going to have more illegitimate children being born because not as many families coming together because of the low poverty rates. So people are sexing, but nobody's putting their families together. This is crazy. People are moving into these urban areas, and everything is going into complete disaster. So percent of illegitimate births. Percent of illegitimate births, since it's male unemployment rates. Jesus, look at this. Look at this. Look at this, guys. Unemployment rate of 12% or over. 40 illegitimate children born for every 100 people. This is crazy. Guys, how can we sustain a community like this? Among non-white men during the year, 1/4 or more experience unemployment. This is crazy. This is crazy. This is crazy. This is crazy. Unemployed during the year, unemployed 15 weeks or more. Unemployed during the year, unemployed 15 weeks or more. Unemployed during the year, unemployed 15 weeks or more. This is crazy. This is crazy. These numbers are catastrophic. A third of these children belong to families in which the father is not only present but was employed the year round. In overall terms, median family income is lower for large families than for small families. Families of 6 or more children have median incomes 24% below families with 3. It may be added that 47% of young men who fail the selective service education test come from families of 6 or more. Damn. So now we get into the conversation of how many children should people be allowed to have based on their income, so that they can make sure that they have enough resources for their children to flourish. Damn. During the 1950-1960 decade of heavy Negro migration to the cities of North and West, the ratio of non-white to white family income in cities increased from 57 to 63%. Corresponding declines in the ratio in the rural, non-farm, and farm areas kept the national ratio virtually unchanged. Excuse me. Some water here. But between 1960 and 1963, median non-white family income slipped from 55% to 53% of white income. The drop occurred in 3 regions, with only the South where the drop occurred in 3 regions, with only the South where a larger portion of Negro families have more than one earner, showing a slight improvement. So in the South, you might have multiple people working together. They might have a farm. They might have some businesses. They might just all be employed. And so they were faring better in the South. This is crazy. This is crazy. Ratio of non-white to white family median income, United States, 1963. Sheesh. We see the numbers, gang. See the numbers. Because in because in general terms, Negro families have a largest number of children and the lowest incomes. Many Negro families literally cannot support their many Negro fathers literally cannot support their families because in general terms, Negro families have the largest number of children and the lowest incomes. Many Negro fathers literally cannot support their families. But with so many Hispanic families would have so many children, is it the cultural norm for them to be able to get along with less? Are they teaching their children more skilled trades? I always see the young Hispanic children, doing a lot of skilled trades. Not all, but many. And is that what allows them to have larger families and stay connected and well together and to survive economic crises and to continue to have respect and admiration for their father figurehead? Crazy, man. Because the father is either not present, is unemployed, or makes such a low wage, the Negro woman goes to work. 56% of Negro women aged 25 to 64 are in the workforce against 42% of white women. This dependence on the mother's income undermines the position of the father and deprives the child of the kind of attention, particularly in school matters, which is now a standard feature of middle-class upbringing. Facts, the woman being at home, being able to take care of things while the dad is at work. But as you see, times changing now, so many women are in the workforce, but we're having a reversal of that with COVID. So many women had to leave the workforce to take care of their children during remote learning, and many women who were in families just stayed out of the workforce, while our sisters had to simultaneously balance at home learning for their children and trying to keep their jobs. Many lost their jobs and didn't want the jobs and didn't want to lose their job. And then after things died down, were called back into work as their children were then transitioned back into school. And, but they lost so much time, their children with learning in a structured environment. And then with their finances, that many are now in even deeper debt and in deeper financial turmoil, and their families are even more strained. This dependence on the mother's income undermines the position of the father. Yep, the dimensions grow. The dimensions of the Negro problems. Oh, I'm sorry, I read this all backwards. I am so silly. All right, cool. The dimensions of the problems of the Negro Americans are compounded by the present extraordinary growth in the Negro population. At the founding of the nation and into the first decade of the 19th century, one American in five was a Negro. I'll debate that. The proportion declined steadily until it was only 1 in 10 by the 1920s, where it held until the 1950s when it began to rise. Since 1950, the Negro population has grown at a rate of 2.4% per year, compared with 1.7 for the total population. If this rate continues, in 7 years, 1 in American will be non-white. I mean, I think this has even been blown out of the water at this point, especially when you have all these influx of migrants coming in. Biden said it himself that, this country is going to be completely brown. This country will be a non-white, will be the majority in this country. But what that actually will look like with all these, again, influxes of migrants coming in by the millions, that remains to be seen. These changes are the result of a declining Negro death rate, now approaching that of the nation generally, and a fertility rate that grew steadily during the post-war period. By 1959, the ratio of white to non-white fertility rates reached 1.1 to 1.42. Both white and non-white fertility rates have declined since 1959, but the differential has not narrowed. So let's see. Let's see what we come up with. So this is Statista U.S. fertility total fertility rate by ethnicity in 2021. Let's see what this says. See what we get here. See what we get here. This is for teenagers though. Don't really want a teenager report. Births, provisional data for 2023. This is teenagers. Well, I mean, those are births. So to pretend like they're not births is silly. Why is this one not going? Yo, when they don't want you to see something, oh man, they go crazy. They try to block it. Datacenter.aecf.org. Kids count, data center, total births by race and ethnicity in the United States. This is datacenter.aecf.org. Bow. Let's do this. Let's just look at these two. United States, Black or African American, non-Hispanic, white. 2016, 16%. Non-Hispanic white, 52%. Damn. That's 2022, 16%. Non-Hispanic white, 50%. Sheesh. Total births, 573,922 in 22 versus 1,840,739, which represented 50% of the total births. The total births were 3,667,758 for the year of 2022, leaving out American Indians, Asians, and Hispanic or Latino. Hispanic or Latinos attributed for almost 1 million births as well, 26%. So definitely, we are the least born, and a lot. And then this is not even taking into account how many abortions, stillbirths, and so many other issues that happen with sisters. This is crazy. U.S. fertility rates dropped to another historic low. The general fertility rate in the United States decreased by 3% from 2022, reaching a historic low. This marks the second consecutive year of decline, following a brief 1% increase from 2020 to 2021. During, people locked down, people loving on each other. From 2014 to 2020, the rate consistently decreased by 2% annually. These statistics and others from provisional 2023 birth data were released by the CDC's National Center for Health Statistics, or NCHS. The new report, Births Provisional Data for 2023, analyzes data from more than 99% of birth certificates during that period. The report shows a 2% decline from 2022, with 3,591,321 births recorded in 2023. Other findings in the new report: birth rates declined for women ages 20 to 39, and those are like your main childbearing years. They were unchanged for females 10 to 14 and 40 to 49. Yikes. The birth rate for teenagers aged 50 to 19 was down 3% to 13.2 births per 1,000 women. Can argue what you will about that. The birth rate for women ages 20 to 24 reached 5.4, reached a record low. This is prime birthing years, and it is at a record low. Cesarean delivery rates increased. Of course it did. And for the fourth year in a row to 32.4%. These doctors can always find a reason to cut somebody's stomach open, particularly in my community. The low risk cesarean delivery rate increased to 26.6%. Preterm birth rate was essentially unchanged. It's crazy. This is crazy. Download this report real quick. Oh, crazy, 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 crazy. My goodness. Preterms. Maternal age. Damn. 30 to 34 is down 2%. 35 to 39 is down 1%. 40 to 44 remains pretty much unchanged. It's crazy. The primary birthing years, though, down 3%, 25 to 29, and 20 to 24 down 4%. This rate has declined by 47% since 2007. The number of births to women in this age group declined by 4% from 2022 to 2023. Sheesh. Mm-mm-mm. This is crazy. General fertility rates declined 5% for American Indian, Alaskan, and Black women. 5%. 3% for Asian women and white women, and 1% for Hispanic women. The general fertility rate was unchanged for Hawaiians. This is crazy, guys. This is crazy. 5% less children being born. Man, this is the CDC.gov's report, guys. So y'all do with this what you like. You can, oh, it's not fair, and this and that. It's the CDC's reporting from the National Center of Health Services, NCHS. So, like, y'all can complain about the report all you want, but I'm pretty sure of the accuracy of the numbers. All right, so we continue. The dimensions grow since the we'll continue on. The dimensions grow since the 1950s. The Negro population, we're on page 25 of the Moynihan Report from the 1960s, has grown a rate. Oh, this is crazy. These changes are a result of the declining Negro death rate, now approaching that of the nation generally, and the fertility rate that grew steadily. But we've seen that this is not happening no more. Family size increased among non-white families from between 1950 and 1960. Average family size changed little among whites, with a slight increase in the size of the husband-wife families, balanced by a decline in the size of families without fathers. So all families, white, non-white, had about an average of 4 members in the 50s. In the 60s, it was about 4 as well. Husband and wife in the 50s, about 4. Would have about 4 family members in the house. White versus non-white, about 4 in each side. In the 60s, it's about the same as well, 3.6 versus 4.4. So non-white people had a slightly higher birth rate and larger family size. Female-led houses, white had about 3 people, non-white about 4. So you're seeing more people having to be fed in the house. In the 60s, female-led houses had about 3 people in it, about 4 as well. So yeah, it's a female-led house, so it's only one parent, and there are more mouths to feed. This is just not a recipe for success. It's just not. Negro women not only have more children, but have them earlier. Thus, in 1960, there were 1,247 children born per every 1,000 ever married non-white women from 15 to 19 years of age, as against only 725 among white women. That's almost double the children, a rate of 1.7 to 1. Yeah. The Negro fertility rate overall is now 1.4 times the white, but what might be called the generation rate is 1.7 times the white, meaning how many children you're actually creating in comparison to the other group. Fertility rates, non-white women are 1/3 higher than those for white women. Sheesh. Just be popping them out. Turn it up. This population growth must inevitably lead to an unconcealable crisis in Negro unemployment. The most conspicuous failure of the American social system in the past 10 years has been its inadequacy in providing jobs for Negro youth. Thus, in January 1965, the unemployment rate for Negro teenagers stood at 29%. This problem will become steadily more serious. I wonder what it is today. Let's see. Bureau of Labor Services, unemployment rate by age, sex, and race. Statista, teenage unemployment rates, 2024. Let's see what Statista says. Okay. Can we break this down by demographics? Monthly unemployment rate of teenagers in 90 states. Let's break it down. Labor force statistics, 16 years and older, 16 to 19, 16 to 17, Black or African American. The unemployment rate in the second quarter was 15%. And the second quarter of 2023 was 15%. In the second quarter of 2024, it's 17.5%. So it's going up. In the Asian community, it was 10.6% in the second quarter of 2023. And for those that don't understand, business is generally broken down in quarters. So each quarter represents about a 3-month term. So you can have January to March, April to June, July to September. Oh, I'm sorry, it'd be about a 4-month period. So January to April, May, June, July, May to August, September, October. You know what I mean? Like, it might be 3 months. I think it was 3 months. I'm sorry. I'm all over the place, guys. But second quarter, 3-month period, 15% unemployment for 16 to 19-year-olds. Black, 16 to 19-year-olds. Men, 16 to 19. Black unemployment, 11.1% in 2023, 18% in 2024. Black men, 16 to 17 years old. Look at this, 16%. In Asian community, it's none. It's none. Hispanic or Latino community, 15% of their 16 to 17-year-olds were unemployed in the second quarter of 2022 versus 2023, while 16% of them are. So it's going, come on, guys. Ours is going up crazy. It went up 4% in 1 year. In 1 year, it went up 4%. Also, another primary important group, 20 to 24, 10% of 20 to 24-year-olds were unemployed in the second quarter of 2023. 16%. It's going up crazy versus 5% in 2023 and 10% in 2024, 7% in 2023, 7%. There's pretty much remained steady. But they're 18 to 19-year-olds. Look at that. Wow. Women, on the other hand, about 20% as well in our community for 16 to 19-year-olds. 16 to 17-year-olds, very high unemployment. This is crazy. This is very, very disturbing, guys. Idle mind is the devil's playground. Essentially, 20% of our children have nothing to do with their tongue. What are we expecting them to get into? What do we think is going to happen? And if this continues to go up at this rate, it was about 16%. And if this goes up another 5% to 25%, this is crazy. This is really crazy. If this goes up to 25% in 2025, my goodness, you understand how many people are going to be feeling hopeless and underachieving and looking for something to get their hands into. This is not good. This is not good at all. So, continuing on, population and labor force projections by color. This is crazy. Gang, this is so sad. I'm gonna continue on from right here. During the rest of the 1960s, as the white civilian population, 14 years of age and over, will increase by 20%, more than double the white race, the non-white labor force will correspondingly increase 20% in the next 6 years, double the rate of increase in the non-white labor force of the past decade. Damn, 5.3 children, family income under $2,000, so that'd be under 20 grand today. 5.3 children, family income under 20 grand. What do we expect to happen in these scenarios, man? What do we expect to happen in these scenarios? As with the population as a whole, there isn't much evidence that children are being born most rapidly in Negro families with the least financial resources. This is an ancient pattern, but because of the needs of children are greater today, it is very possible that the education opportunity gap between the offspring of these families and those of stable middle class unions is not closing, but is growing wider. Facts. Children with more resources, children with access to more things can learn more things. They can have more tutelage, more instruction, higher quality tutelage and instruction, uh, and those higher quality teachings will lead them to have more skills when they get older and into adult life, and they can become more productive, higher earning members of their society. As such, they are a greater value to the children, the offspring that they bring into the world. A cycle is at work. Too many children too early make it. A cycle is at work. Too many children too early make it most difficult for parents to finish school. That's a fact. An Urban League study in New York reported that 44% of girl dropouts left school because of pregnancy. An Urban League study in New York reported 44%. In February 1963, 38% of the white girls who dropped out of school did so because of marriage or pregnancy, against 49% of non-white girls. An Urban League study, 44 left school because of pregnancy. Low education levels in turn produce low income levels, which deprive children of many opportunities, and so the cycle repeats itself. Is this not what we still seeing today, family? Is this not what we still seeing today? Is this not what we still seeing today? Is this not what's still going on? We at the end of chapter 3, family. I had to pull a lot of resources and do a lot of information gathering to really give some type of context to what we were reading. And I think we could have even deep dived even more in that into that chapter. So I hope these 2 parts, these 2 hours were enlightening, entertaining. My son coming in the back, giving some comic relief. But I hope you really are edified and learn from this. And go back, review this, check out the Moynihan Report, Moynihan's Negro Family for yourself. I'm gonna get into chapter 4 another time. We're going to come back and do some Bible study. We still in Book of Genesis. This has been great, man. It's your boy Ghetto. I'll be back, family. This is amazing information, and I think this was very helpful to go over this in this type of deep context. Salute.